Sorting through the many perspectives takes work. The seemingly never-ending opinions can get noisy, but what if we choose to change our vantage point? Think bigger, dig deeper, change the dialogue. Discovering the truth above it all. It's time to elevate the conversation.
For we are God's masterpiece. These words were written by one of the first Christian leaders named Paul. Even though the phrase is ancient, it's still familiar, isn't it? We're part of a culture that tells us that we are the main character of our story. In other words, we've grown up believing that we're built different and in all the best ways. Maybe you picked up on this from words of a parent, a coach, a grandparent, a friend. Although Paul was writing to followers of Jesus, even if you're not a Christian, you probably grew up hearing something similar to, "You're a masterpiece," either from somebody else or from society as a whole. Maybe it sounded like this: "You're special. You can be anything you want to be. You're unique." So when we read phrases about being God's masterpiece in the Bible, it's easy to breeze by them without giving them much thought at all. But if we are all masterpieces, then why does it seem like it's so common to treat one another like trash? If we grow up hearing messages about how important and special and unique people are, then why does it feel like talking down or verbally beating someone up is totally acceptable and normal, or even expected? The truth is, we say with our mouths that people are masterpieces, but that's not how we treat them. Mona Lisa, maybe the most famous painting of all time, is a masterpiece, and it's treated like one. It's kept behind bulletproof glass in a climate-controlled setting and under constant security. All of this for a painting. Why? Because masterpieces deserve the best care possible. But it's obvious that not all people receive this kind of care or concern. And over the last few years, things seem to be worse than ever. We've gotten used to arguing over everything, yelling to make our point, talking bad about people on social media, and looking down on people who don't agree with us. When you stop to think about it, the world is just mean. And maybe worst of all, I think a lot of us have kind of gotten used to it. Deep down, we may know that it isn't the way things should be, but what do we do about it? Where do we even begin? We can start by naming what we're seeing, experiencing, and sometimes even participating in ourselves. Bullying. Bullying isn't new to us, the idea or the word, but just so we're all on the same page here, let's define what bullying is. The National Center Against Bullying defines it as an ongoing and deliberate misuse of power in relationships through repeated verbal, physical, and or social behavior that intends to cause physical, social, or psychological harm. It can involve an individual or a group misusing their power or perceived power over one or more persons who feel unable to stop it from happening. If we were to put that in words connected to faith, we might say that bullying is when we repeatedly diminish the image of God in someone else and what we say, do, or how we behave. In other words, it's a really big deal. Even if something happens only once, it's still a big deal. Plus, bullying isn't just a school problem. Isn't it true that you've seen adults participate in bullying even more in the past couple of years? Except it's not called bullying, it's just normal. In fact, chances are that all of us have, are, or will experience bullying in one of these ways. Bullying others. Some of us might be using bullying behavior towards others. We might be gossiping, mistreating, or intentionally harming others in an effort to cover our own hurts, pains, or desires for control. Some are being bullied by others. We might be the one being bullied. We've been put down, excluded, or hurt by people for no reason at all. We feel misunderstood and devalued in ways that cut to the core of our ideas of being masterpieces. Or maybe you've been a bystander. You've watched as someone was mistreated at practice. You've listened in as someone was spilling the tea that they didn't brew at the lunch table. We've laughed along while someone made fun of another person on TikTok. We haven't necessarily been involved in bullying firsthand, but we also haven't done that much to stop it from happening. This is probably the most common way bullying is experienced. In a world full of bullying, we feel safe when we aren't the topic of discussion. So it's easier to let the bullying happen to someone else than to take the chance of it becoming directed toward us if we get involved. Both teenagers and adults today experience this problem in one of these three ways. We throw out comments or post captions about people that are degrading or rude without even really thinking about it. We hear rumors that someone has been snapping about, and it silently crushes our day or our vibe. We scroll through our feeds or scrub through videos of people trashing one another without even considering how our clique is fueling their content. Bullying has become a part of the new normal. It's the new normal because we see it all the time. It feels like it's everywhere and never ending. Plus, with social media, bullying doesn't stop even when you leave an environment. It keeps going even when you leave school or practice. The point is, as bullying has become more normal, it's become more accepted. And if we're all supposed to be masterpieces, that's just not right. So, do we just accept this? Or should we elevate the way that we think about it? There has to be another way to live, right? Thankfully, there is a better way to live. It's found in a letter written by Paul. He was writing to Christians in the city of Rome. 2,000 years ago, Rome was the center of culture for the entire world. Think of Rome back then like we think of New York or LA or Paris. The way the Romans behaved, lived, and interacted with one another shaped how the world experienced day-to-day life. So, Paul writes to followers of Jesus living in this powerful city with advice on how to live. Today, as we consider how bullying has become normal in our world, I want us to experience Paul's words personally. Let's take the time to process how something that was written so long ago might be inviting us to experience a new way to live like Jesus did. So, to do that, we're going to do something a little bit differently today. We're going to read an entire section of Paul's letter. This will be a longer passage than we typically read out loud. See if you can catch every time Paul mentions the way that we view or treat other people. And then I'll ask you a couple of questions and give you a couple of minutes to reflect on each one silently. You can close your eyes to pray or think, or write down notes as thoughts pop up. But focus on Paul's words, and then take some quiet time to process how his words might be speaking to you today. Even if you aren't sure about all of this church and Jesus stuff, what Paul wrote can be beneficial to you too. First, let's pause for just a moment and get in the right headspace before we read this. Take just a moment to sit quietly, take a few deep breaths. And if your phone will distract you, go ahead, turn it off and put it away. All right, here we go. Let's listen to the words of Paul.
And so, dear brothers and sisters, I plead with you to give your bodies to God because of all he has done for you. Let them be a living and holy sacrifice, the kind he will find acceptable. This is truly the way to worship him.
Don't copy the behavior and customs of this world, but let God transform you into a new person by changing the way you think. Then you will learn to know God's will for you, which is good and pleasing and perfect.
Because of the privilege and authority God has given me, I give each of you this warning. Don't think you are better than you really are. Be honest in your evaluation of yourselves, measuring yourselves by the faith God has given us.
Just as our bodies have many parts and each part has a special function, so it is with Christ's body. We are many parts of one body, and we all belong to each other.
In His grace, God has given us different gifts for doing certain things well. So if God has given you the ability to prophesy, speak out with as much faith as God has given you.
If your gift is serving others, serve them well. If you are a teacher, teach well. If your gift is to encourage others, be encouraging. If it is giving, give generously.
If God has given you leadership ability, take the responsibility seriously. And if you have a gift for showing kindness to others, do it gladly.
Don't just pretend to love others, really love them. Hate what is wrong, hold tightly to what is good. Love each other with genuine affection, and take delight in honoring each other.
Never be lazy, but work hard and serve the Lord enthusiastically. Rejoice in our confident hope. Be patient in trouble and keep on praying.
When God's people are in need, be ready to help them. Always be eager to practice hospitality.
Bless those who persecute you. Don't curse them. Pray that God will bless them. Be happy with those who are happy and weep with those who weep.
Live in harmony with each other. Don't be too proud to enjoy the company of ordinary people, and don't think you know it all.
Never pay back evil with more evil. Do things in such a way that everyone can see you are honorable. Do all that you can to live in peace with everyone.
Dear friends, never take revenge. Leave that to the righteous anger of God. For the scriptures say, I will take revenge. I will pay them back, says the Lord.
Instead, if your enemies are hungry, feed them. If they are thirsty, give them something to drink.
In doing this, you will heap burning coals of shame on their heads.
Don't let evil conquer you, but conquer evil by doing good.
I'm going to ask you a series of questions for you to quietly think about your response to. Where have you seen bullying in life or in society, but felt powerless to actually change it? What are some behaviors in society, like bullying, that you find yourself participating in? What holds you back from behaving in a way that is more in line with what Paul talked about? How does bullying go against what Paul writes? What alternatives does Paul offer? Whether you've bullied someone, been bullied, or been a bystander to bullying, how can you overcome the evil of bullying by doing good this week? One of the things that makes human beings unique is our ability to empathize with others. Empathy is understanding the feelings of someone else. If we want to do this, we can imagine what it is like to be in someone else's shoes. It's what makes movies and books and TV shows so powerful. And when it comes to bullying, there may be nothing else that has more power to change our minds about how we see bullying and the role that we play in it than our ability to empathize with those who are affected by it. Bullying is a big deal because people are a big deal. And when people are mistreated and talked down to, diminished and cut down, it matters to God, and it should matter to us as followers of God. That's why we're talking about this today. Normal doesn't mean okay. Expected doesn't mean acceptable. When you see value in others, you behave in ways that solve the problem of bullying. It all begins with us acknowledging how valuable all people are. Let me just say it, bullying is wrong. If you're behaving like a bully, the good news is that you're invited to a different way of treating others. You can choose to start behaving in ways that align with the value you and other people have. Would you be willing to take the risk that Paul offers and contribute to creating a safe community for yourself and for others? You're not just a bully. Who you are is so much more than that. You're valuable, and other people are valuable too. When you choose to see both of those realities, you'll elevate the way you see and treat others. If you're being bullied, hear me say this. Being bullied is brutal. If you're being bullied, it doesn't reflect your real value. No matter what someone has said to you, how that's made you feel, or what thoughts have run through your head because of bullying, I want you to hear that you should be treated as someone with incredible value because you are. Maybe it's time for you to ask someone for help, or to tell someone else that you're being bullied, or to refuse to believe that someone else's bullying behavior has anything to do with your value. I understand that taking a step like this can be complicated, but it's so worth it. Just remember that you are valuable, which means you're worthy of being treated well by others. Imagine what would happen in your schools and in your community if we started to elevate the way we think about bullying. Our lives would change. Our schools would begin to change, and eventually the whole world would begin to change. Together, let's be the people who see the value that everyone has and the people who behave in ways that solve the problem of bullying. Before we wrap up today, we're going to do one more thing that's a little different. You each are going to be given a card that says, even though bullying seems normal, I've decided to treat other people like masterpieces. For the next 3 minutes or so, we're going to play some music and give you some time to pray about everything that we've talked about today, and then take a bold step. Once the music starts, if you're ready to commit to an elevated way of living, a way of life that says bullying is bad for you and others, I want you to have a conversation with God about what that looks like in your own life. Maybe it's you committing to treat others with a new level of kindness this week. Maybe it's deciding to see yourself as worthy of respect and deciding the best thing you can do for yourself and someone who is bullying you is to talk to someone you trust. Maybe you decide that you're going to speak up the next time a conversation goes in the direction of trashing someone else. Whatever you decide is between God and you. But if you're willing to commit to this new way of living after you pray quietly, I want to challenge you to get up and place your card on the board in the spot that matches the number that's on your specific card. This step is meant to solidify a decision that you're making today to elevate the way that you think about bullying. By adding your card to the board, you're saying that you want to start taking a different approach to how you treat other people. A way that's different from what has become so normal in today's world. And don't miss this. I think this is the key to everything Paul wrote. He says that evil will be overcome with good. If we want to change the way that bullying has become normal, we have to begin by choosing to do good to other people. We can't bully other people into stopping bullying. Evil won't overcome evil, but good will. So, as we take a step together, let's remember that.